everyone. This past week was the 50th anniversary of the launch of the Apollo 15 mission to the moon. It all began on July 26, 1971 and ended on August 7, 1971 with a splashdown in the North Pacific Ocean. Apollo 15's lunar surface exploration using the Lunar Roving Vehicle, the LRV, took place between July 30th and August 2nd, 1971. In this video, we're going to discuss the Apollo 15 mission from launch at KSC to the splashdown. Welcome to Reaching for the Moon, hosted by me, Ed Grace. Apollo 15 was the first so-called J mission, which emphasized scientific research and with longer stays on the moon's surface and the use of the Lunar Rover Vehicle rather than just landing on the moon. The crew consisted of Commander David Scott, who'd be making his third trip in space, along with Command Module Pilot Al Worden and Lunar Module Pilot James Irwin, both of whom would be making their first trip to space. The outward flight to the moon had only minor difficulties, and the mission entered the lunar orbit without any major issues. The descent to the moon by the LEM, which was called Falcon, with Scott and Irwin aboard, took place on the late afternoon of July 30th, with Scott as commander taking control and manually making the landing. Despite difficulties caused by the computer-controlled flight path being to the south of what was planned, Scott assumed manual control of the final descent and successfully landed the Falcon within the designated landing zone. The scientists were divided over where Apollo 15 should land. Scott's argument for the area of Hadley was finally chosen. Commander David Scott and lunar pilot James Irwin landed very close to the planned target, Hadley, and explored the local area using the LRV, which allowed them to travel further from the lunar module than had been possible on previous missions. They spent 18 and a half hours on the moon's surface on extra vehicle activity and collected 170 pounds of surface material. This image is a map of their travels on the lunar surface. Scott had a deep interest in geology, made time during the pre-mission training to have his crew go on field trips with a Caltech geologist. Scott made their field trips more like they would encounter on the lunar surface, with mock backpacks simulating what they would wear on the moon, and by using a training version of the LRV. During the return trip, Al Worden performed the first spacewalk in deep space. The Apollo 15 mission splashed down safely on August 7th, despite the loss of one of 3 parachutes as shown on the screen. The mission accomplished its goals, but was marred by negative publicity the following year when it emerged that the crew had carried unauthorized postal covers to the lunar surface, and some of which were sold by a West German stamp dealer. The stamp issue caused much press coverage. The astronauts were called before a closed session of the Senate committee and never flew in space again as a reprimand. David Scott previously had flown on the Gemini 8 with Neil Armstrong. The crew of Gemini 8 were the first to link 2 spacecraft together in Earth orbit. However, after docking the Gemini 8 with an Atlas Agena rocket, a Gemini spacecraft maneuvering thruster malfunctioned, causing Neil Armstrong and David Scott's Gemini capsule to tumble out of control. As the spin rate approached 1 revolution per second, the astronauts' vision became very blurred. The tumbling needed to be stopped immediately. Armstrong's quick thinking led him to turn off the orbital attitude and maneuvering system and then use the re-entry control system thrusters on the nose of the spacecraft to regain command of Gemini 8 and stop the spin. After landing safely in the Pacific, David Scott credited Neil Armstrong's quick thinking skills and flying ability with bringing the astronauts home safely. David Scott had a funny story about the recovery, which I'd like to share with you. Because of the early termination of Gemini 8, the recovery splashdown came in an area with only a very limited amount of recovery ships near a Navy base in Okinawa, Japan. The U.S. Navy destroyer USS Leonard Mason was requested to head towards the Gemini 8 landing site. The recovery of the spacecraft was a big deal for the captain. He certainly was not expecting that day. Once Gemini 8 was aboard, the ship headed for the Okinawa Navy base. As the ship came into port, the captain had all the crew get dressed in their Sunday best, standing on the deck, saluting. Well, the ship sailed right past where it was supposed to dock. Now the ship had to go down, turn around, and come back to where they were scheduled to dock. Once again, the captain had all on deck, in their Sunday best, saluting. And once again, the ship sailed past the docking port. By now, the crew decided that the captain had done too much celebrating of the Gemini 8 recovery and needed to have someone else dock the ship, which they did. Can you imagine how embarrassed the Navy was over this event, especially at a foreign Navy port? Well, that brings us to the end of today's Apollo 15 discussion. I hope you liked the video. If you did enjoy the video, give us a like. Hit the subscribe and notification buttons to be notified every time Reaching for the Moon posts a new video. Thank you for watching, and remember always, failure is not an option. Bye.